What up? Wall Street, back again. And let's talk about one of the NBA's most famous, or maybe infamous, Frenchmen, Rudy Gobert. There's been a lot of discussion in, the NBA media circles and podcasts and things of that nature that Rudy Gobert is a very overrated defender. And I don't know if I can agree with that argument because there's different realms of defense in basketball, right? There's certain players that only guard on the perimeter, like guards. Some wing players and forwards as well that get put on switches and mismatches. But a guy like Rudy Gobert is not a perimeter defender. And he probably shouldn't be, right? You have a guy who's 7'2", maybe 7'3", in the paint, right? Because he's a rim protector. You don't want your tallest guy, more likely than not, guarding someone on the perimeter. Because just in terms of sizing, they're not going to have the foot speed to keep up with someone like Stephen Curry or Tyrese Maxey or Jalen Brunson, right? They might have that height advantage to block a shot, but you really don't want that being the primary defender on a guard like that has agility and quickness, because they're going to blow by him, right? It's just not a good defensive scheme to run. So a lot of people use this to basically harp against Rudy Gobert and say that he's not a good defender because he just gets a lot of blocks because he's so tall, right? And sure, he gets a lot of blocks in part because he's a tall guy. He's a long wingspan, but that's the role he's supposed to play, right? Like, you see this, I don't really know how to describe it, but you see this trend a lot where, young basketball players, if they're 6'5" and everyone else is 6 feet tall, they get put, down low in the post, even though that might not be their play style, right? And I think it's differing between offense and defense. You can have a much different play style on offense than you do on defense, right? You can be an interior scorer on offense, but be a perimeter defender on defense. And you can be an interior defender on defense and be an outside scorer on offense. It's just, it depends on what your play style is. But I don't think Rudy Gobert is a bad defensive player. I would not want him guarding players on the perimeter, like I said. But he gets you a ton of rebounds. He's a great defensive rebounder, which is very important. And he gets a lot of blocks. He gets a ton of blocks. He got, 2.1 blocks per game this year, career average of 2.1 blocks per game overall, and he's a good, really good interior scorer. Consistently shoots a high field goal percentage. His career high in Utah for field goal percentage was 71.3% from the field. It's incredible. He's not a terrible free throw shooter. He's not a great one, but he's not, as bad as Shaq. But let's stick to the topic of defense. I don't know if Rudy Gobert is deserving of all of the defensive accolades that he's received, because I do think on some level, if he is this amazing of a defensive player, his team should be going further in the playoffs. But like this year, I think he was very deserving of it. I think he should have won. Victor Wembanyama clearly had a better defensive stat sheet, but they were like the third or fourth worst team in the NBA. So it's hard to give a guy on such a horrible team that type of award, because defense is very much so correlated with winning championships and that whole cliche. So if you're not winning, it's going to be hard to say that you're a great defensive player, because defense is more likely than not, half the battle, if not more than half the battle. But I wouldn't say he's a bad defender. But since he has 4 NBA Defensive Player of the Year awards and he's made first team all defense 7 times, I think his accolades certainly make it seem like he's one of the, if not the best defensive players of all time. Which we've had this constant discussion in the NBA where, players will come out and they'll say, well, just because, someone's winning defensive player of the year doesn't mean that they're the best defender, right? Like, the best perimeter defenders in the NBA are typically the best defenders because they're typically getting put on the most, I guess, volatile scorers in the league. But, like Drew Holiday, probably one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA and has been for years, is not going to lock down Joel Embiid. You're going to need someone like Rudy Gobert to play him in the paint, but more likely than not, a guy like Joel Embiid is going to need several different types of personnel thrown at him on the defensive end, right? He's going to be involved in a ton of switches, tons of pick and rolls, pick and pop, you name it. But do I want Drew Holiday guarding Joel Embiid in the paint? No, I would want Rudy Gobert guarding him in the paint. So I think that's something that a lot of NBA fans don't really get, is that at the end of the day, the opposing team is trying to score. So if Rudy Gobert is guarding the basket and he's stopping people in their tracks when they have the easy shots, within 5 feet of the basket, that's a good defensive player. Is he the best defensive player? Is he the most versatile defensive player? Absolutely not. But he is the most impactful defender for last season, in my opinion. And that shows with how far they got in the playoffs, right? He played great interior defense. At the end of the day, I think, you could try and give the award to Drew Holiday, but he doesn't have the stat sheet to represent it. So I think that's the issue with Defensive Player of the Year, is that it's much easier to track how good of an offensive player someone is through the stat sheet. It's a lot harder to do that for a defensive player. And that's just the reality of, the league and the reality of the Defensive Player of the Year award and the all defense teams. It's never really going to reflect who's the best, niche defender or who's the best, perimeter defender, best interior defender all in one. It's never going to happen, right? But that's why you have guys like Kawhi Leonard, who won the award 2 years in a row because he was averaging, a high number of steals and a significant number of blocks as well, right? But I wouldn't call Kawhi Leonard an interior defender. He's probably more of a perimeter defender, but he can play both. He can be a post defender. He can be a, interior defender for smaller guys. He's not going to lock down, Joel Embiid in the paint. But is that what the award is reflecting? Who knows, right? This is, to me, the Defensive Player of the Year award is one of the hardest awards to actually pinpoint because someone's always going to be mad, right? Someone's always going to be mad. And people are going to be mad about other award winners as well, but it's just, I don't know if I can say Rudy Gobert is an overrated defender because I think so many people think that he's not a good defender. And I don't know if he's deserving of 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards. I think Dwight Howard was a better overall defender than Rudy Gobert, but he was also a consistent Defensive Player of the Year award winner. So it's a toss-up. Right? But I wouldn't say he's a bad defender. He's very good at being a rim protector, which is a very important defensive sector of your team that you need to cover, right? So is he the most deserving of the award every year that he's won it? I can't really say that that's true, but I don't really want to say that he's an overrated defender because every team needs a solid rim protector like this. So you guys let me know. What do you think? Do you think, Rudy Gobert is super overrated? Do you think he, should have won all of those Defensive Player of the Year awards? Let me know what you think. Please, if you like this video, give it a like. If you didn't like the video, give it a dislike. And let me know what you guys want me to talk about next. Love talking about hoops, so ready to bring you guys another one soon. Talk to you. Peace.